right. Hi, everyone, and welcome to Sinica Studios' live stream for this open studio night on Friday, the 13th of October. We are featuring Warren Nelson, who is a local glass artist who's going to be flame working today and creating some cool little objects. So today's a nice, pretty cool day in the studio. It's just about 75 degrees, I think.
Some of that will remain translucent, some of it won't.
And
It all just kind of depends.
Warren's going to be working in the studio for about 3 hours today. So if you guys are local, feel free to come check it out. He's going to be demonstrating from 6 to 9. So Warren's a local glass artist and he's working in the flame working studio primarily. So he usually works with borosilicate glass. You guys might know this glass because it's very, very similar to the glass you might use in your kitchen to bake with. A lot of people know the name Pyrex, which is baking glass. You can put food into it and bake it, or you might be using it for measuring hot liquids at home. But Pyrex is pretty amazing glass, and so we're going to be using borosilicate today in the studio. Warren is going to be working with borosilicate to sculpt with it and to make some cups. So in this studio, in the flameworking studio, the glass usually starts as tubes or rods of color or clear glass. And he's actually making a goblet. If I'm not mistaken, he's working on a goblet at the moment. So he's making this little indentation with a tungsten pick to make this color bit hollow. And then he's going to attach a tube to it. And what that's going to do is it's going to create a separation of section of color and maybe clear.
Mold temperature probably going to be around like 22, maybe 2,000 degrees or so. So you have this rod, and since the rod is actually hotter, it kind of melts the glass as it goes in.
So he's using this tungsten pick, which is a metal that he's going to kind of jam inside the glass to create a little bit of a hollow space inside this color. Hopefully you guys can see this on camera. Now Warren is a local artist. He's been in this area for a little bit, but he's been working with borosilicate glass for 18 years. So he graduated from the University of Idaho and actually got a degree in graphic design. But it's kind of cool that he's found his way to glass. He enjoys making utilitarian objects, things like cups and bottles and containers of sorts. So Warren is a local Fort Worth artist at the moment. He works in the area. I believe he's going to have a booth at Arts Goggle if you guys are curious about what he makes. But hopefully we'll get a chance to highlight him and what he's working on currently during this live stream. So you guys, just as a heads up, we're going to live stream this only for about an hour. After Warren works on this piece, we're going to pause him and we're going to interview him in the gallery just so you can hear a little bit about what he makes. And then from there, he's actually going to continue to demo until 9 p.m., but we won't be broadcasting all the way up until 9. So if you guys are curious and you want to watch his process or see what he does, don't hesitate to stop by. Come by Magnolia. We are located at 1013 West Magnolia Avenue in Fort Worth. feel free to come by, hang out. We've got a bunch of people sitting on the bleachers, and it's a really nice night out for hanging out and watching some glass making. So those of you who are familiar with glass making, this glass has worked a lot hotter than our hot shop glass. If you've watched our live streams before, our live streams are, we're usually working with a very soft glass in that studio. And borosilicate is a lot harder. It takes a lot more heat. So this torch that Warren is working on is actually probably close to about 3,000 degrees or so in temperature. And the glass that he's working on really requires that kind of heat to melt down. So this glass is also used for scientific glass making. If you've ever worked in a science lab, this is the kind of glass that chemists are using in those labs. Now borosilicate, one of the amazing things about it is a really great glass for sculpting, as well as working really large on the torch, because it tends to not shock as much as soft glasses do. So it's a lot harder in density, which also means that the glass can cool down a little bit quickly and it can heat up a little bit quicker than soft glasses. So those of you who have been to our studio and you've worked in our studio before in the hot shop, this glass is so very different from that. So Warren makes a lot of cups and vessels, and those cups and vessels always start on a tube. So he's applied color. We saw him apply a little bit of color to this tube. And then he's blowing it out in a bubble shape. So you'll see him put it to his mouth and inflate just with a little bit of air. But as he's working, the glass will want to cool down. So a reintroduction to heat is always very important. Warren, what color is that?
This is Ghost.
Ghost. Okay, cool. What what tonality does it end up being? Is it alabaster? Okay. So like a milky white, white color?
Yeah, it does like a translucent blue to a milky white.
Oh, got it. Beautiful.
Like this is how it starts out.
Cool. So it starts out like a white rod and then it goes to this milky white, bluish color. So Warren's putting the glass into an annealer, which is going to keep the glass nice and toasty. Even though this glass is not prone to thermal shock, it doesn't tend to want to crack very easily. It still will crack if you don't take good care of it and make sure that it's not cooling down too fast. So you guys, again, if you're local to this area, come check us out. We are Sinica Studios on Magnolia Avenue, and we teach classes in glass making. So today we're featuring our flameworking studio, and we're working on a torch in that studio. So if you guys come and take flameworking classes with us, we'll teach you how to work on a torch. Now we teach two different kinds of glass. We do teach soft glass as well as borosilicate glass. And the primary thing about working this way is you can get a ton of detail in a tiny amount of space. So, of course, if you're coming in and this is your first time with us, we're not going to be able to teach you how to make what Warren makes. He's been doing this for a very long time, right? So 18 years he's been working in glass. Actually, it might be wrong. That might be 19 years at this point. So if you're interested in learning this process, feel free to come by. You can go to our website, senecastudios.org, and you can click on the classes tab and take a class with us in flame working. Now we teach classes in multiple studios. We've got flame working, but we've also got the hot shop or the glass blowing studio. We've got the kiln forming studio as well as the cold working studio. And all of those are really fun ways to work with the material. So if you're thinking about wanting to pick up another hobby, or you're kind of curious about glass making and you want to see what it's all about, do go to our website and check out our classes. Now, if you're a glass enthusiast, but you really don't want to make glass or heat kind of freaks you out, you can also come and check out our gallery. We've got tons and tons of cool glass. And I know we're coming up to the holiday season, so if you're looking for glass for that special person, or you're not sure what to get someone special, maybe someone who has it all, feel free to check out our gallery. You can always get a gift card for the season. Maybe that's a nice way to gift them a class. So if you think they might be interested in glass making, that might be a nice gift for someone else. So Warren has put around a blow hose onto his neck, and if you guys come and take a glass class in our hot shop, or if you have taken a class in our hot shop before, you've most likely used this tool. It's a really nice way to extend your access to blowing into whatever you're working on. So in the hot shop, we use it to attach to our blow pipes. But very often flame workers, neon artists tend to use a blow hose and attach it to the end of their hollow tube so that they can blow into it with ease. So you guys don't forget, we're only going to stream this for about an hour. So if you're local, feel free to come check this out in person. We've got our bleachers out, and it's a really, really nice night compared to the previous few months we've been having where it's been really, really hot. It's beautiful outside. There's Friday on the Green happening down the street, so come check that out too. You can come hang out for a little bit at our demo and then go down and check out some of the music happening down the street. It's a really nice night to be out. And of course, as always, we are manning the chat. So if you guys are like thinking, I want to ask Warren a question or something like that, or you're curious about glass making and you've never seen this before and you don't know what's happening, feel free to put your questions in the chat. We are monitoring that and we're always happy to answer questions. So if you can't make it out tonight and you're sitting online and you have a question about anything, feel free to put that down in the chat. We'll do our best to answer them quickly. So Warren's got this really cool setup of this sliding jig, and he made it. It's pretty cool. So it's basically a couple of rollers on a wood platform, and it's got these wheels underneath, and so that allows him to slide things back and forth. And what he's doing at the moment is he's just warming the glass up. So he's got this big fluffy flame aimed at the glass, and he's just kind of warming up that tube. Now glass is super finicky. It really, really does not like sudden heat or sudden cold. And so what he's doing is he's warming the glass up so that it doesn't thermal shock, doesn't break on us. So Warren's preheating everything, and this like bright orange fluffy flame is gonna allow the glass to warm up without it shocking. So as he tightens down that flame, the glass won't crack on him. So you guys, we're putting a little didymium lens on one of our cameras, hopefully to help you see better in that flame. You'll notice that Warren has also got these special glasses on his face, and that's going to allow him to see into that orange flame a little bit better. I'm going to take a quick moment to switch out one of our cameras, but I'll be back here in just a few seconds. And he's trying to match the diameter of his other tube.
I like your little pyramid, by the way.
So again, same thing. It's super important to warm things up. We got to make sure that the borosilicate glass is not getting shocked. And so this big, giant, fluffy flame is really, really great for that, for warming up the glass, making sure it doesn't shock. So if you guys have ever at home put a hot Pyrex glass on your cold counter and had it shatter, or if you take your Pyrex glass baking tray and put it into a hot oven, it has probably shattered. Glass does not like very sudden changes in temperature. And so it's super important to make sure that even when you're working with a glass hot like this, like Warren is, that you are very careful about making sure that the glass doesn't thermal shock. So heating it up nice and slow so that it warms up and doesn't get hot too quickly. Super important for working successfully with this glass. Now, of course, borosilicate, or what people think of as Pyrex, is actually a little less prone to this shocking thing that I'm talking about, but it still tends to want to break if you heat it up too quick. This is so freaking cool, you guys. If you are in the area and you're local, definitely come check Warren out. He's got some cool jigs that he's got his torch on. This rail, the wheels that he's got his glass turning on is super cool too. A really cool jig. So definitely, especially if you're a glass maker, definitely come check him out. He's going to be demoing until 9 p.m. tonight. So 9 p.m. Central on Magnolia Avenue in Fort Worth. So if you guys are local, definitely come check it out. And even if you're not a glass maker, this is super cool to watch.
Are you using your nail so it doesn't create friction? Yeah. So he doesn't want to turn his hands because that would be less accurate. So he's using his fingernails so that way when he rotates the glass, it doesn't get caught on the skin, which will stop it. He rotates on his fingernails, it doesn't roll across. Which is so smart, and I don't know why I never thought of that. You know, I picked it up watching another glass blowing conference. Like, I've seen so many little techniques. Like, I saw this on Instagram. Someone had made their own. I was like, normally these things machined out of aluminum are like $1,000. It's like, oh yeah.
So Warren is talking about fabricating some of his own jigs for glass making, and he said that he's seen other glass makers do this, and he's gotten inspiration from them for making his own jigs. Also, something that Kanan noted when Warren was working was that Warren was using his fingernails to glide the glass on his hand so that his skin wouldn't cause too much friction. So if you guys were paying close attention, you would have noticed that his hand was closed and his glass was really sliding on his fingertips, on his nails, which provides a really nice slick surface and stops the glass from getting friction as he's turning. So same thing, Warren's got this fluffy flame. He's lightly torching everything to warm the glass up. So you guys, if you're on this live stream and you're curious about glass making, feel free to stop by our studio, especially if you've never come by Sinica Studios before. We are a nonprofit facility dedicated to educating the public about glass. So if you're curious about glass making, do come check us out. We do teach in 4 different disciplines of glass. So we've got flame working, which we're demonstrating tonight. But we're also doing glass blowing. We do teach kiln forming as well as cold working. So if you're curious about working in any of those studios, do come hang out and check us out.
I brought some of my demo classes that I've been working on. We're working on a series to enclose mushrooms.
So these are some of the cups that Warren brought for us, some of the things that he's been working on recently. Which are really, really cool. So not too many glass makers work on the torch and then work this large. These are pretty good sized cups. So big cups require a bigger flame. And so Warren's torch is pretty intense and large. And he's working on much bigger tubes in order to be able to get those big shapes happening. So you'll notice that as Warren is working, he also is very much constantly turning his hands. Just like the soft glass studio, glass is super affected by gravity. And so if you stop turning your hand, the glass is going to kind of drop down to the ground. So it's super important to keep your hands turning. Warren's slowly opening up this little bubble. And then this is going to be an encamo as well?
What's that?
Is this going to be an encamo as well?
This one's going to be a stuff and puff.
A stuff and puff. Got it.
Some people call it a blow-in.
A blow-in?
A lot of glass blowers use different terminology because a lot of us are making up techniques.
Got it. So basically you're going to open up a cup shape and then heat that bubble up and drop it in? Okay, got it.
That's the plan.
Got it.
Everything goes accordingly. We'll have a full section of color too.
Very cool. So in case you guys missed that, Warren's going to be, he's basically made like kind of a cup shape. And then he's heating up this bubble and he's going to drop it into that cup shape and blow. He said it's called a blow-in, or different artists call it different names. I think in the hot shop world it's called a stuff cup. but it's a way of applying color to the outside of a vessel. Or in this case, potentially applying color to the inside of the vessel. So what is really cool is a lot of the time when people come in and they do flame working demos or they take flame working classes, you're working very small on a smaller scale, and Warren's definitely working a lot larger. These tubes are gigantic, and the glass that he's making is a lot larger than what most people do on a torch. So that's pretty freaking cool. That was such a subtle move. Did you guys catch that? So Warren's got his torch on a jig that allows him to quickly tilt up his torch so that it's a little bit out of the way as he's working. It's such a great setup for working on a torch. And so he can kind of adjust the direction of the flame. You'll notice now it's a lot higher, pointed up at the sky a little bit more than it was earlier. And he can kind of adjust things as he's going. So one of the great things about working on a torch is it really allows you to pinpoint the heat and specifically add heat where you need the heat to go, as well as it allows you to cool off and chill out the glass around the area where the flame is hitting. So of course, as you guys are thinking about solid pieces of glass, if you were making something like pendants or something like that, you might work with solid pieces of glass. But if you're making vessels, like what Warren's doing at the moment, you'd want to start with hollow tubes. And that's what he's got going on at the moment. So one of the cool things about glass makers is they all tend to be pretty innovative, especially when they are working in their studios by themselves. They tend to innovate and come up with creative ways to problem solve any issue they might run into. So Warren's not an exception. Some of these cool things like the jig that his torch is set up on and attached to is something that he developed. And out of just necessity. it looks like he's opening up this bubble. He's got this solid rod of glass in his right hand. And generally, if you superheat the end of the bubble and then touch it and pull while you're blowing a little bit, the glass is going to thin out and then open up. So he's basically opening up this little bubble.
Just a little bit. Just kind of getting enough pressure in there just to keep that molten space a little convex.
So another cup shape that's going to help with some of the prep for one of his pieces. So with borosilicate artists, a lot of the time they are prepping little parts. You can see him put a bubble into this annealer. That annealer is sitting pretty nice and toasty. And it's just making sure that the glass is not going to chill out before he's ready for his next move. So he's making a bunch of pieces and parts. And then those parts are going to be picked up and used again in a little bit.
Oh, okay. I think it should be fine. Okay.
So there's definitely a little bit of a balancing act happening between the glass that he's put into the annealer. He's planning on those things being picked up again. And then keeping the glass that he's prepping for the next step warm. Yes. Arts Goggle is on the 21st of this month.
That is next Saturday.
My booth should be right outside Spiral Diner.
So if you guys are out and about on the 21st for Arts Goggle,
Street name?
do look out for Warren's booth. Warren says he thinks that he's going to be outside Spiral Diner. So if you guys are walking the street and you want to check out some of his stuff, definitely come check it out. If you have never been to an Arts Goggle before, highly, highly recommend coming and checking out the street that day. It is quite chaotic. There's a bunch of artists. The street is shut down for it. There's about 60,000 people who showed up to the last event. And I'm not sure what this year is going to be like. So we at Seneca Studios generally have a pumpkin patch. We'll have a bunch of artists kind of hanging out on our lot, selling work with us, but the street is entirely filled with a number of artists who are selling the work. So really cool, really cool event to check out if you have never been to it before.
Take the clip off.
Give me 1 second.
It's very hard to see. One of the fun things about Portsmouth is that since that flame was so bright, the purple glass is so hard to see through.
So glass is pretty fascinating. If you guys have never played with glass, I highly recommend coming and trying it out. There are so many different ways of working with it as well. So today we're featuring flame working, which is really primarily working in front of a torch. So creating glass on a torch. And Warren here is working with borosilicate glass. So glass that is more commonly known as Pyrex glass. The glass is pretty like, it allows for a little bit more resistance to breaking when exposed to sudden heat and sudden cold. So it's a little more resistant to breakage. We call it a harder glass. So borosilicate's pretty amazing. And so Warren is making a bunch of cups, I think, today. Something maybe similar to these over here. And so if you guys haven't seen Warren's work, we've got a bunch of his work in the gallery. So feel free to come check it out. And we generally have a few items of Warren's in our gallery. So if you're loving what you see and you want to come pick up some of his work, feel free to stop by our gallery and pick up some stuff, or come support him at Arts Goggle. He will have a booth down the street, and he's anticipating it might be in front of Spiral Diner, but I know that the artists haven't gotten their booth assignments yet, so make sure you guys look in the guide for where his booth is going to be located. So Warren's primarily working with tubes of glass, but they are that harder glass. So we were talking about borosilicate earlier. These are borosilicate tubes. Those of you who are familiar with scientific glass making and the glass that's used in science labs, this is the same kind of glass.
Anticipating what I was going to be having coming up, and so that's why I'm putting this on, because I'm going to be turning something molten like this, and it's going to be really close to my arm.
He's getting ready. So one of the moves that he'll do is put it in a stretching set or something. He'll take two different rods and pull it like this. The hot spot's going to be right where his forearm. And so he's just going to cover that up to make sure it's not too hot. So yeah, glass artists can use like peddler sleeves to help block light.
lot of the time with soft glass, if you guys have come and taken a class with us, you've probably used Frit in our studio to add color, but color can be added to glass in a variety of ways. So Warren is using a rod of color at the moment, and he's sort of heating it and then coiling it on to that tube that he's got. So if you guys have worked in ceramics and you've ever done a coil pot, this is the same thing except a lot hotter. So he's slowly kind of welding it on, and I know this is a little bit hard to see because of the flame. But hopefully you guys can kind of see him sort of like wrapping this rod of color on. So just like a coil, just like building a coil pot out of clay, he's using glass to wrap a wrap of color.
Those ones aren't bad though, they're usually quick surface burns. There's also wax on the outside, so the wax touches the skin.
No, I'm getting tired.
So he's using a glass rod and kind of slowly heating it up and winding it onto this tube that he made. And it's just another way of adding color to borosilicate glass. So again, if you guys haven't ever seen this in person, definitely come check it out. Super cool. Really, really fascinating to watch people work with different ways of glass making.
Other types of glass I can use, like for example, in the hot shop, it's about 2,000 degrees. Borosilicate simply is one of the hottest. It's called borosilicate because they pump in more boron into making it a lot more stiff.
So definitely if you guys are coming to take a flame working class with us, we certainly won't be able to start you guys off with something like this. It takes a number of years and a lot of skill
This one specifically is pretty directed.
to get to this point that Warren is at. But if you're looking to pick up a new hobby and you're looking to learn a little more about glass making, we are the only nonprofit public access facility in Fort Worth and actually in the DFW area. So we're the place where you can come, take a class, and then continue. So if you want to come rent, if you want to come use our studio and practice, we offer facilities for that. So Warren's going to be demonstrating for another couple hours. If you guys are local, please do come hang out and watch in person. We are going to probably cut this broadcast here fairly soon. But we will still be demonstrating for about a couple more hours.
I'm doing this just to alter the flame chemistry so that the glass inside doesn't oxidize because this glass has crystals or silver crystals in it, and I don't want those to come to the surface, or when they do, I want them to burn off.
So if he changes the type of
So Warren is using this tube and he's blowing into it. We've seen that some of the work that he's been making is all hollow and blown work. So after adding the color on, then he can just inflate through this tube to add volume, to make this form a little bit bigger.
a lot of different quantum chemistry stuff that we work on glass surface.
So just like a ceramicist needs to keep the clay wet, glass artists need to keep the glass hot. So you'll see him continuously going into, he's continuously kind of going into the torch to kind of heat the glass back up. anytime that he's gonna wanna heat up and inflate things, heat is generally the key for anything that he's doing. So making sure that he gives everything a good amount of heat before blowing or inflating or changing the shape at all. That's super important for working with glass. So this is the process we were talking about a little while ago, where he's got this cup shape and he's got in his left hand a blob of color that's basically a bubble. And he's gonna go kind of straight up and down and stuff this little cup. So he's gonna take his little bubble and he's gonna stuff it into this other cup shape, and then he's gonna blow. So he's balancing the heat between the two objects, super important. And then straight up and down, going in nice and easy, letting it drop. And then when he's ready, giving it some air. So once it's stuck down, that's like kind of a one and done. You get one shot at this technique. So once it sticks down, that's kind of it. So what he's doing is basically going into that mold super slow, and I say a mold, but it's really a cup shape of glass. And then he's blowing. And once you blow into that form, that's kind of done. So you got to really embrace it and go for it. They did it really well. So it looks like there might be a little bit of air trapped in between the layers, but nothing too crazy. His next step is going to be to heat, and get those layers to melt together fully.
One of the cool things about glass is that glass is a lens, and so it naturally magnifies things. So by doing two different layers as well, he's able to get a little bit more magnification on some of those smaller details.
So the heat is going to allow for the glass layers to melt together really well. You'll see him go in and inflate a little bit more just to keep everything nice and pressurized.
So now he reduces plane so he can now pair it up. So now
And it's kind of crazy when you think about it. All of this is color application. So when you guys walk into a glass gallery and you're wondering why everything is so expensive, not only does it take artists a number of years to really learn and hone this craft, but it also takes a long time just to get a color application on the piece. So watching some of this hopefully gives you a new appreciation for how long it might take an artist to actually craft that object that you think might be really simple. But even just the color application, like we're seeing, Warren is really only done with his color application at this point.
now he's just tearing off
So
a
really,
little bit of
really
excess glass.
keeping in mind, this takes a long time to master. This craft takes a long time to master, and also takes a long time to learn how to craft forms really, really well. So the simplest of color techniques can actually be deceivingly difficult.
So with the layering of colors, one of the things that we can bring up is with this type of glass, he used a solid piece of color first and then added more afterwards. What you can do is, for example, in the hot shop, we make much larger blown pieces. Typically, those only have about maybe 10% of the glass's color, and the rest of it is clear. What we do is we'll get layers of clear glass, I'm also now narrating for a live stream as well. For those of you at the live stream, I'm also narrating in the studio itself. So if we have any audience questions, I'll make sure to repeat. My name is Kanan, if you guys are unfamiliar. Warren is our visiting artist. Warren makes quite a lot of lovely torch pieces. And like I said before, he's going to have a booth at Arts Goggle this coming up Saturday. That'll be outside of the Spiral Spiral Cafe. You can also Spiral Diner, thank you. Spiral something.
Spiral food. Spiral deliciousness.
Spiral great food. It is entirely a vegan menu, which is very good tasting food. But yeah, you're also able to see some of the examples in the studio. Or in the studio, he has a couple over on the metal table, kind of exemplifying what he plans to work on tonight, as well as some in the actual gallery as well. Our camera does not have a lens. So the question is whether or not the cameras have lenses. We do not, and those are called Didinium lenses. We do not have one for our camera tonight. Sometimes we do. Sometimes we do. It just depends. Nick Gomez, who works on the torchworking area, and he teaches classes in the torchworking shop, he does have lenses for that. Unfortunately, Nick is not here tonight, though, so... One of the cool things that you may notice is that the colors have slowly started to come out more and more. Before it was a very dense, dark-looking color, but now that we actually have more volume in the piece, those colors are spreading out a little bit more, and so we're able to see a little bit more of that detail instead of just the dark, very dense colors. You also see now he's using this tool to be able to level. There are very expensive versions of this tool where called lathes, where it'll keep everything perfectly on center, keep it automatically turning for you if you need it. This is the great home version where it's a little bit more portable, way less expensive, and it gets the job done of making sure your glass is staying on center. I have some more glasses if you guys want some, by the way. Does anyone want glasses to kind of see a little bit better? Yep. Yeah, kind of. So right now he's essentially heating the glass and then using this flat tool to be able to shape it up further, both evening it out, but also being able to displace the glass in such a way to where he's more comfortable with working with it. He's also now pulling off a little bit of the extra of the glass, or he's kind of pushing it together, actually. So he just took the very wide opening and then closed it down so that way he's actually able to blow into it. So he was balancing out the walls of the glass a little bit more with those tools, making sure everything was a little bit more even. And then now that it is, he closed off the hole and now he's going to start blowing and shaping it out a little bit more. The more glass we get and the more glass that we want to move, the larger the flame has to get. So you can see now our flame is very large and big. That way we can heat up as much of this glass as possible and be able to actually move it whenever we shape it or drop it or blow it. That is also a very obvious sign of the sodium flare that we were talking about before. Once the glass goes in, the flame actually causes the sodium to flare out, causing that bright orange flame. But as soon as it's out of the glass, then it's just the normal oxygen propane looking flame. And so that's why we use the purple didiniums, is to be able to actually see the flame and see the glass. The didiniums act to cancel out that orange flame that comes out, depending on how high of a quality of glass you have, glasses wise.
So yeah, that's just from the foil potting. You can kind of imagine how that foil pops a little up inside there. So this hopefully will turn into the middle section on the top.
So one of the cool things about that is you can see how details are lost whenever the glass is hot. Everything just turns to a nice orange pile of mush. But with that light, we were able to see a little bit more of the detail, which is nice. That's also true with a lot of the colors that we use. We talked a little bit about it before, but every single color that we use in here has a different type of element associated with it. For example, gold is used a lot in pinks and purples. Cobalts and coppers can be used a lot in blues, while a lot more of the cadmiums can be used in like reds. So depending on the type of metal, it'll also look like a different color as it's cooling down. There are plenty of colors of red, for example, that'll look black or even clear. And then once they fully cool down, they'll actually strike and turn to a red color. So almost all glass looks orange when it's molten. And then when it's hot, but it's not molten, then the color will look a little different. And then once it fully cools, then it results in that color that we know as glass. So he let it cool down to where it's not moving anymore, but he doesn't want it to get too cold. If it gets too cold, it'll start to crack potentially. And so he's going to leave it over there in the kiln for now just to hold at a temperature. That way you can pick up on it, work on it later.
That's it. We're going to take a quick break. I'm going to do an interview. Then when I come back, I'm going to divide this into 3 sections. And we'll put that color cap from the Ghost. I'm going to put that on the bottom of the glass. I'm going to shape it into wine glass. And then I'm going to divide this in 2 and put it on either side of that color foil I just made. I'm going to blow that into a glass. And then after that, I'm going to try to make one of these mushroom glasses from the remaining section. So lots to squeeze in to the next hour.
Yeah, you got it. So essentially we've been prepping up to be able to make our cups in the next half of this demonstration. So all the color is kept over there in the kiln right now for 2 of them. And then the third one will be using a different type of technique to get color inside of the actual glass.
have me muted?
I just have all sound muted
Okay.
until you guys are ready.
Okay.
Probably.
Oh, good. I'm glad he's out of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Who did?
Kevin.
Kevin.
How you doing, dude?
Hey, good man. How you doing? Good to see you, man. Oh, hanging with.
Of course. You around? I didn't bring my hoodie because I thought you guys are gonna be like hot today. I was like, and I gave my other hoodie to a homeless guy the other night because it's been super cold in Dallas.
Yeah.
And I
Getting
just
a
felt
little
so
cool
bad.
at night.
Yeah.
Got us muted. She's got everything muted right now.
Okay. Brandy,
So.
are you muted?
Do I look
Not-
like every glass blower out there? Well, it was funny. Austin took, right? Austin took a photo earlier. It was like, I love how whenever someone takes a photo, it's the sodium fire. They look like they're looking in the light. So I was like, that's every photographer ever. Right?
Right. So this one clip to your shirt. And then you can just shove this in his pocket. It's on already.
Okay.
Brandy has us muted.
Okay, so Brandy controls all the sound.
Brandy is in control. Way more than just the sound. Way more.
Makes sense.
All the video.
Good. How y'all doing?
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah, that's a technique I'm hopefully, or I haven't, I'm not dropping chunks of glass and melt it in, spin it up, and shape it. Make it sound so simple. I do all that over about a course of like an hour. Yes, thank you. You're local, right? Yes.
Yes.
I'm here in Fort Worth. We'll be back in a bit.
All right, thank you.
So,
Yep.
what you need to make announcements about?
Arts Goggle.
Yes.
It's
Arn
gonna
will
be
be
in
here.
front of Spiral Diner.
Okay.
I think, but
Yeah.
make sure that
You didn't get your assignment yet?
My assignment, unless they emailed it out in the last couple hours.
Yeah, I don't think. I think
they're real close.
That's what Megan said.
don't forget to mention Kashi. But
I got it.
first, talk about Warren.
Yes.
And then all that other stuff.
We'll do Warren, and then I'll hand. Okay, so I'll do a quick intro, a little bit about the sponsors and who supports Seneca, and then we'll go right into introducing you, and thank you for being here. And then I'll ask you just a little bit about your background and the work you make,
Okay.
and then what your plan is for the remainder of the demo, and then we'll transition back to just come out. I'll remind everybody about the goggle. Mention you got a booth. And then I'll say, if you can't come to the goggle, you've got to come to the Homebrew Invitational on the 21st.
Right.
Yeah.
Just encourage.
Everybody come to the goggle.
Come to the goggle.
Actually, have you stand next to Clifton if you're.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're good here.
Do you want me to move some of Chad's pieces? No.
You good?
Do you want me to bump them off their shelf?
We can just.
Yeah.
Check the.
I'll move that one just for now.
I'm not going to be that person.
Just for now. Let's be too worried, and you can
So
get a
then
little closer.
Brandy is gonna give us a when audio is live, and then I will give you guys. You guys ready?
Seconds, Brandy. Y'all are welcome to hang out. We won't. Okay. Okay, we're good. All right. Thank you all for tuning in. Welcome to Open Studios Night in October of 2023. I want to thank the team. It takes a lot of effort to put these. Seneca Studios is a wonderful place, bringing people together to make glass, bringing people together to promote glass, and the team here is fantastic. So I want to recognize the team here at Seneca Studios and all that they do. Also want to recognize the support. We are fortunate to get the support of the City of Fort Worth, Arts Fort Worth, the Texas Commission on the Arts, the R4 Foundation, the Ann L. Carroll and Carroll Green Roads Charitable Trust, the J.E.S. Edwards Trust, and all those out there who donate. We really appreciate your support. I want to thank Topo Chico for sponsoring us. We always love having Topo Chico. It's nice and hot here. But if you're in the area, please come by tonight. Seneca Studios is all about community. We're all about education, all kinds of programming. We do all kinds of outreach programming. And tonight is our open studios where we feature an artist. And so we're thrilled to have Warren Nelson here. Once again, he's demoed with us a couple of times. And it's always fascinating to watch his skill level and to see him work. Thank you so much for being here, Warren.
Absolutely.
It's always a pleasure, man. So we saw a little bit about what you're making tonight, but talk a little bit about where you come from just for a second and some of the work that we can see in the gallery and what you have planned for the rest of the night.
Well, yeah, my name is Nelson, and I come from Northwest. I'm a native. Made my way down to Texas because my wife got a job at TCC. Before that, I did a Bachelor of Fine Arts at the University of Idaho, and that's where I got into flame working. Was actually at a head shop, and my friends and I applied kind of as a joke, but I was already a BFA, and they looked at my portfolio and they were like, go ahead and do it. So I did it, and I kept working and went independent contractor, then contractor and independent, and now I'm independent again, and I'm focusing on doing glassware. Right now I'm doing these wine glasses where I encase an object inside of them, and one of the neat things about that is that when you fill it up with water or wine, the refractive properties of water actually magnify the object inside, allowing you to get like a 2x zoom into it. I find the world of glass very fascinating, and that you can continue to zoom in further and further and further until you look at it almost on a molecular level. It just has a really neat and interesting property that way. But yeah, now I'm down in Fort Worth and got my website live, warrennelsonglass.com, and I'm putting some more of my glass on there and doing a lot more independent work, doing a lot more just experimenting and trying to find what I like and what I love, and glass pretty much leads the way for most of my interests, just as far as like basically how it reacts to what I do and is visually compelling, and then I stick with that and try to push it a step further, try to embellish its own beauty, I guess.
Yeah, well, it's fascinating material, and working in borosilicate glass has some really awesome advantages, and
Yes.
I really love the optics that you play with these the drinking ware. I've actually filled a couple of these up because Heidi told me about it when she was checking them into the gallery, and it is a fascinating thing to see this tiny little piece just magnified. It looks like it's too big to fit in there. And so I saw you got one out there with a mushroom in it.
Yes, I'm doing the mushrooms. I'm going to have the mushroom glasses at Arts Goggle. And I kind of got the idea of, like, you remember those little dinosaurs in the pills you had as a kid?
Yeah.
You pour water and they grow?
Yeah.
Well, that's what I tell people at Arts Goggle is like, watch. Do you want to watch the mushroom grow? And I have little kids come up and fill it with water. And you know, it looks like it grows.
Yeah.
And so, you know, it blows their mind, makes them happy. And then we can have a conversation about the scientific process that allows that to happen. And it's just a good time.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you know that you bring up a really solid point. Seneca Studios is here for community. We're all about education. We do
Yes.
a bunch of STEAM-focused kind of programs with the Fort Worth ISD. We do some homeschool groups. We had a couple of homeschool groups in this
Nice.
week. And these kids were in here yesterday morning, and I was talking to them all about the coefficient of expansion. I was talking to them about the material. And then you get to, like, you know, transfer some of the science that we need to know about this material to kind of gain control and a better understanding of it to make the things we want to make. And you can pass that on very easily. It's a fascinating tool to help people become interested in education and science and the
Yeah.
technology that we use. But then there's also an incredible cultural component to it, you know? So we talk a lot about the history of it around the globe over the centuries, how people have been making with glass. And he mentioned it. You guys, if you can't come out tonight, next Saturday is the Arts District has a huge event next Saturday, October the 21st, from noon until 10 p.m. There's a whole bands. There's over 1,000 artists that are going to be up and down Magnolia Avenue, 50 plus bands. It's going to be a really fun day. So if you're in the area, or you should just come to the area next Saturday, find a park. Good luck there. But find your way down to Magnolia Avenue. It's going to be a lot of fun. Warren's going to have a booth. It'll be down probably close to Spiral Diner. There's going to be so many artists. I think there's probably well over a dozen other glass artists that are going to be on the street. We're going to have some featured artists doing demonstrations all day long. So come down to Magnolia Avenue and the near Southside Arts District Saturday, the 21st, for an incredible day of art and community. It's a fascinating event because it's really focused about local artists. They don't bring in artists from around the country. They really focus on elevating artists in this community, and that's, I think, the hallmark of the event and why it's been so successful, and it's just grown and grown and grown. So come down next Saturday, and just come down every Saturday, because the following Saturday on the 20th is our homebrew competition. We have 13 homebrewers entered. I think we're going to have probably 30 homebrews to come and taste. You can join the Order of Corn and become a member and taste the beers. We got a scorecard. There's T-shirts. We got a bunch of glass mugs. There's going to be live music and food trucks. Just come down every Saturday to Magnolia Avenue. There's always something here at Seneca Studios for you to enjoy. But Warren, I want to thank you again for being here. I want to thank everyone at Studios. If you have an extra dollar or two, go online and donate. Help us to elevate glass in our community. We do so much, and it takes everybody's support. So again, I want to thank the team. I saw Kevin out there. I saw Tatara and Jean's behind this. Randy's back there producing the team. I saw Allison. I saw Megan. I saw Kanan, Heidi. So we've got an incredible team, and I really appreciate and we're really for everybody's support. Thank you all for tuning in. If you have questions, during the chat. We're going to keep probably filming a little while longer. But come check out Seneca Studios for everybody. Thanks. Yeah.
Thank
Good
you.
stuff. Yeah, absolutely.
I appreciate you guys' support so much. Just being able to the things I've already learned being here, the cold working studio.
Yeah, that's what it's here.
We're
We're really here for